right, let's see what it looks like. Oh. Okay. You want to see it real quick? Or are you good?
Are we live?
We are live currently, yes. We are running the first ever Game Plan Podcast post game reaction live.
Right on. Then I'm ready to go.
All right, all right. I will keep this YouTube page to the side so if anyone comments, we can see it. But if not, we are ready to rock and roll. All right. Well, whether you were watching this later or whether you're watching it live, welcome to week two. Let's call this the Moonball game. I mean, call it the Russell Wilson was 10 years ago Russell Wilson game. What a crazy game, and one that we'll probably remember for a long time until we don't want to remember it anymore. I'm your host Slater, and right across from me I got my host Mike. We're both here and happy and excited that we at least got the dub today. So, Mike, how you feeling about it so far?
I mean, I feel good about it. I think a lot of what we talked about on our pregame happened,
Yeah.
right? Some of the things we said we needed to do, and that if we didn't do, would make it a long day for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the heart of that team is the defensive line, and that really slowed up Dallas's production most of the game because we had to really, calculate our shots and we had to play around the line of the scrimmage a lot just because, that's where the strength of their defense was. But, that kind of worked against us at times. And then on the other hand, with the Giants offense, we both agreed that, if we weren't able to get in front of Russell Wilson when he dropped back to pass, that the guy is a 9-time Pro Bowler. He still can throw a punch. The last thing to go is his ability to throw the deep ball, as a quarterback, and that's exactly what he did today. This team was being threatened to go 0-2, just like we were.
Yep.
Every time we play the Giants, it's a tough divisional battle. It was the same way last year. It was a tough game, and we had several injuries coming out of that game despite winning it.
Mm-hmm.
It's early in the season, so everybody still thinks that they can make the proper corrections to be that dream team and put it all together and be the team of destiny and get off to a good start and win. So, for everyone out there who was expecting us to just come out and dominate this game 31-10 or something like that, I get it. I totally understand it. We are better than them in most of our position groups, but there are, some strengths that they have that just did not match up well versus us. And we can get
Yeah.
into detail on some of that as we talk, but that's my general opinion of it. We did enough to win. We showed resilience. Exactly what we called happened. They were going to use the tight ends and Scattaboo to, keep them in drives. And then whenever they got under pressure or they got desperate, Russell Wilson would just drop back and moonball it and hope that somebody could run under it. And because of our secondary situation, that's exactly what happened today.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agreed. I mean, there's a lot to break down from this game. Definitely didn't expect the high caliber, punch for punch shooting kind of game that we saw today. Definitely, it's one of those games where you're happy you squeaked out the dub. There's a huge difference between 0-2 and 1-1, especially when your season's starting. As we're alive right now, we just watched the Chiefs go 0-2. We're watching a couple of these teams that slipped 0-2, and now you're kind of in the hole now, right? And going 0-2 against your division would have really, really hurt us as well. So super happy that we got the dub. Just kind of looking at maybe the defensive side of the ball. How did you feel about the first half, second half, or what's your overall consensus of the defense today, because we saw a really awesome defense in the second half against Philly, and then a really kind of the same defense we saw in the first half today of Philly, and now you're kind of seeing a repeat of it. It seemed like we had soft coverages going on, and then we kept getting moonballed over the top, burnt and everything like that. So I I mean, how do you feel about Eberflus right now? Is he still kind of like? Do you see what he's doing? I mean, is it something that we're missing as fans or anything like that?
So here's what I think. I think that's what they designed that team to do with Russell Wilson at the helm.
Yep.
So, they had a tough first game against a high powered offense that, is pretty much the same as it was last year. So they came into this game with a little bit different of a game plan. One, because that's what they're built to do, is to sustain drives and then throw the deep shot, right? So if you can take away those deep shots, this becomes a much easier win to earn, right?
Yeah.
But the way it worked out for us was just a matter of timing. We've got Trayvon, who's still playing a little bit injured in my mind.
Yep.
I'm watching him, and that's not the Trayvon we know, and it's not his fault. I'm happy he's out there. Him being out there makes a world of difference compared to what could be out there on the field. So I'm glad he's out there. But, with Duran being down this week, we're putting in several different defensive backs that, one, have not played for this team ever and haven't played much at all against a guy who is very experienced in just taking the rock and whipping it over the top.
Yeah.
So, that was their game plan. It was obviously their game plan because they did it very well and almost at will. So, I anticipated that as you did, as we talked about it. We knew that was going to happen. We did not expect them to do it 3 or 4 times like that, but I'm not surprised at all. We knew this was going to be a tougher game than people were probably anticipating, and it was. I think the defensive backs played okay. Deron Bland being out really, really hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It challenged our safeties to have to, commit to staying over the top or wanting to break down and stay short range with the tight ends, which is what they did early to move the ball. So, they set them up and it worked a couple of times. And then towards the end of the game, they finally just started committing and running with the deep receivers. But you and I talked about it. We're like, what they're going to do is they're going to use Wan'Dale Robinson to, get the third downs and do the motion plays. And then when they need a shot, he's just going to chuck it up to Malik. And that is exactly what they did. So I'm not surprised. It was a tougher game than I had anticipated. I'm glad we won. We got the W. I'll take it every which way we can get it. I'm very excited that our team showed the resilience to stay in it and do what needed to be done. I thought Pickens did a great job. CD did a great job. And obviously Dak did a great job. But
yeah, I'm definitely on the same page with you. I think when you're talking about the overall scope of this, it's getting that dub at the end of the day, right? Like I said right after the game, it's like review the film and on to Chicago. Like it is what it is. It didn't look pretty, it didn't look good, but we have seen this team in the 12-5 back-to-back seasons where you're putting 40 burgers on everybody and you're benching guys by the fourth quarter. And at the end of the day, as fun as that is as fans, when I look at football as a culture and a team building and a player building experience, you need those kind of wins where they're like dirty and gritty and being able to kind of just squeak it out, whether the opponent's good or not, right? I talked about it on paper. We whoop them in every position except for the defensive line on paper. But the Broncos, or not the Broncos, the Giants are playing for the same thing. And Russell Wilson's playing for his career right now, and he's playing with all the Jackson Dart rumors sitting behind him after what happened week 1. And right. I think he proved that he can run this offense and he can do it. Now, will he can put it up consistently? I don't know, but that's a New York Giants problem, and I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, so I don't have to worry about it because my quarterback can win 13 straight since 2016 against the Giants. But kind of to wrap this whole thing up, it's you need those wins because I think down the road when you get to like those weeks 15, 16, 17, or even playing the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, or even if you somehow get to the playoffs with the wild card, when it gets tight, this team knows what to do. They've been in these situations. They understand who they are. They built that culture where they're like, you think you've got us, but you don't. We know how to bounce back from this. We have done this 2 or 3 times where we have come back and won, and we will keep fighting and fighting and fighting. That's what I appreciate about the team because I've seen it where that Moonball scores and there's only 30 seconds left and it's over. We'll run 5 yard hitches and there ain't no way we're getting the field goal range and it's over. And then I've seen where today you saw the culture, you kept on seeing the fight. I mean, there's things to fix, but again, pieces are gelling together. Pieces are, they're still trying to work together. You got a new defensive coordinator. I mean, there's a lot going against the Cowboys, but they keep finding ways to grow, adapt, and keep going. And as long as there's a W in the column, you can be mad as fans as you want, but you know what? You get to go to work this week, and you can say that the Cowboys won. No matter, you can't take that away from them. They won, whether it was by 140, a million. I mean, Detroit beat Chicago today, 52-14. At the end of the day, it's still a win, whether it was 52-14 or 51-52. So that's
Right.
kind of how I feel about when all these fans are out there like, oh, they're just the 0-2 Giants. Yeah, sure. Now they're the 0-2 Giants thanks to us. They were almost a 1-1, and we were almost the 0-2 Dallas Cowboys. So, and, just to top it all off, at the end of the game, I don't know what changed Javion Clowney's mind. I'm kind of jumping forward on it a little bit, but I'm kind of glad we got him signed too. I think he's going to be a huge help and a huge presence in that room. And I'll kind of kick it to you on the Javion Clowney, but what was it? I mean, I don't feel like it was a money thing. Is it an opportunity thing with him? I mean, what made you think all of a sudden we got him signed during the game? I mean, what was it? Well, what flipped the switch on his camp side? Do you have an opinion? I just don't know. That's my question.
All right, I'm gonna take the long way around on this one. I'm gonna touch on a
Yep.
couple things, and then it'll end with Jadeveon Clowney.
Yep.
So, I agree. I think working the grind mind in this game was a big deal. It's going to sharpen that tool for later on in the season. We're in tough opponents, who know how to do what they know how to do and do it well. And you're in a slug fight, and you gotta work one and grind one out, and that's what we learned how to do today. So it was great to see that. So before we talk about Jadeveon, let me ask you this: for the Dallas Cowboys offense today, what did you see that was very promising? While you think about that, I'll give you mine. It was really good to see Javonte Williams. I think he's running more confident. I think he's showing patience, and I think he's developing well towards being a solid RB1. That's what I saw out of Javonte today. I think Dak played tough. He hung in there. He did what he had to do. It wasn't pretty. There were mistakes. I don't think Dak made any mistakes, honestly. That one bad pass, but that really wasn't on him.
Yep.
But I was really happy to see that. I was happy to see CD bounce back. Fergie had a good game. So those are just some of the offensive highlights. For the defense, the same concerns I had last week showed up today. I know our secondary is depleted, as it was pointed out many times, but it typically is. Let's be honest, right? So
Yep.
that's not a surprise. We know that's going to happen, and that's always our soft target. But what I had hoped would happen and didn't quite happen was that our defensive line would take a step forward in getting some pressure on a quarterback who really likes to drop back and just chuck the ball, right? I think the linebackers was something you mentioned last week, and I did see some improvement in linebacker play. However, I didn't see that same improvement in the defensive line. They weren't getting as much pressure in the middle of the field as they needed to outside of on the run plays, but the ends just weren't having much luck with disrupting Russell Wilson in the pocket. So I believe that Jadeveon was in wait and see mode.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to see what kind of team and what kind of defense he was going to be joining. Because all week we've seen it's a Jadeveon. It's in the ball's in his court. It's his decision to sign or not. And I don't think it was a matter of money. I think Jerry, like you said, the riverboat gambler is back, and this is all in Jerry. If anybody doesn't know that, that's what this is. This is Jerry. He wants to win right now, and he's going to do everything he can to make that happen without doing anything, that'll damage the team. But I feel like Jadavion sat back and watched this game at home and saw, one, we need him, and two, that this is a tough, grind it out. We're going to fight to the bitter end to get every win, even if it
Hmm.
takes going 5 seconds left to win 40-37 in an overtime game that has just gone back and forth. So I felt like he was going to sign after the day one meeting with him, and it was just a matter of time.
Okay, so break it down for me. You talked about Javion and all that, but what was your question again?
So, what were your highlights on the offense and defense from what we discussed in the pregame?
Oh yeah. So when it comes to the offense, I'm definitely happy they got the more weapons involved. You saw Turpin get involved early game, and then you saw Javante keep running downhill and stuff like that. And he made a couple huge plays today. That it's good to see that continuation, the consistency factor. I think that was kind of the biggest thing I highlight on was consistency from Brian Schonheimer. Kind of still running the motions and being able to use all your weapons and being able to bring in all of the key pieces that you have for your offense to help Dakota Prescott out and all that. And then you also have on the defensive side, the main highlight for me was the linebackers. I thought they played better today. I didn't feel that there was any crazy runs or anything from the tight ends. I just think it was just one of those wild games for the secondary where it's just a gunfight. I can't explain what came out of Russell Wilson today to just say, you know what, I'm gonna throw moonballs all day to Wandale Robinson and Malik Neighbors, and we're gonna roll with it. I can't explain it,
It
but
was a
it's one.
career day.
Yeah, 450 yards. I mean, it's a career day, and even Prescott on the other side was getting near 400, and it's just one of those games where you can't really explain it. But on the defensive side, like I said, the linebackers, really, really kind of happy with how they played. I'll have to review the film and actually see if they were lining up right. I think I was too caught up in the moment by third or fourth quarter when everything started getting explosive and crazy, where I wasn't really paying attention to the keys I wanted to and making notes as I should have. But there defensively, I do want to give a shout out to Tolbert. I know he was kind of off and on during the game, but he kind of stepped up huge on that fourth down. And even Ferguson too. He set up the game tying field goal to get to overtime. I know some people are kind of giving some slander out, but give the credit due where that they deserve it. But I'm just overall just happy, and I'm glad that we're 1-1 and being able to somehow go to Chicago with a positive mindset. There is a lot that needs to be cleaned up, though. There is so much. I mean, I can't wait to break down the film because as a film person, I know you and I will point out things that be like, oh man, that's crazy. It seemed like Donovan Wilson did not want to stay over the top of anybody until the interception ball, right? And so it's just one of those things where I mean, I don't know what the coverage was on the play or what was, his keys and all that. And that's what we'll look to break down. But, why did he keep getting burnt, or why would he not just turn around earlier and just be like, I need to stay over the top of this, right? And same thing for Diggs, right? Why are you going out and then trying to, keep up? So it's just one of those things where we'll see where we end up, but we have to find an ability to keep growing and keep moving forward. We cannot go into Chicago and let Caleb Williams do this because Ben Johnson's offense will not allow us to bounce back from this. I do not believe we could put up another masterclass 400-yard game and be able to take it and then be able to try to repeat it going to Chicago. Maybe at home, but not going to Chicago. I'm not a big fan of going to Chicago and playing in Chicago. It's just not what Dallas Cowboys players are used to.
Yeah, 100%. And this game was almost built to be a shootout.
Yeah.
If you look at it on paper, you've got two really good wide receiver groups, two strong defensive lines.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of destined to turn out this way. And Russell Wilson had a career day. I mean, he was 30 for 41, 450 yards, and a 123.0 passer rating. I mean, That's phenomenal. So, to beat a guy who throws for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns with that kind of a passer rating is a feat in itself. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
go through all the stats, but Malik Neighbors had 167 yards receiving, and that's just one of their receivers. You mentioned Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson had a strong day, 9 receptions for 78 yards. That's
I'm
12
just
targets. That's pretty solid. That's productive. That's as productive as CD was in this game. So, CD obviously had a few more yards, but he's a wide receiver, so it's longer passes. Javonte, 18 carries, 97 yards, 5.4 average with a touchdown.
yeah.
That's solid.
Yeah, I mean I'm proud of our run game. Even Miles Sanders today, I thought he deserved that redemption opportunity to be able to come back out there and play, and I'm happy that he was able to kind of get that touchdown. Maybe it sparked something inside him to keep on building from it. I know he only had 5 carries for 15 yards, but that touchdown run was a good touchdown run, and just happy that the running back room is coming together. Now, ideally, I think it's really I think and this is my opinion, Cowboys fans talk about we need an RB1. I agree, but there's not 1,000 Saquons and McCaffreys and 2016 Ezekiel Elliott's really out there to offer. I do think my opinion is we do need an RB1/2. I mean, we need a combo back with Javonte. I
Right.
think Javonte has proven himself to be the lead guy, but who can you put in there to combo with him that still provides that same energy and that same spark? Saw a little bit in Sanders today. We saw a little bit with Blue in preseason, but Schottenheimer says Blue's not ready. So it's more of like he needs to earn his carries and earn his playing time. So until we get to that point to see Blue in real action, we're not going to know really where we stand with the other running back. Maybe Maffa has a chance when he comes back. I don't know. One thing I am surprised about is Lupti really didn't get much of running. I thought Lupti would run more today. But also the way that the game ended up starting to go, there wasn't really time to kind of build all that rushing attack and being able to. In the pregame, I was like, run the ball, time of possession. We're just gonna sit here and grind it out, and we'll go up
That's what we
14,
wanted.
and we'll go up 14, and we'll call it a day. It's the New York Giants. They
Right.
looked awful against the Commanders, and all of a sudden you're like, it's like, Q dot,
Yeah.
dot. You're like looking up, and it's just Hail Mary fire all around your secondary, and they're on fire, and they're calling for reinforcements, and the safeties are just not there to help them. So,
Right.
I just,
And that's what
yeah.
happens. That's what happens when the game plan gets taken out from underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
Typically an NFL game has the initial 15 to 18 plays scripted as to what you're going to do. And then after that, it's all prepared reaction, right? This is what we're going to do situationally against this team. We need this many things to do this many things to do that. This player needs that, and this needs to happen here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you come out to face a desperate team and they throw the ball up with a hope and a prayer and have success, that develop the running game, time of possession game plan that we wanted to happen goes out the window, and now it's just a gunfight.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, we slayed the Giants. We
Yep.
won. They are defeated. And that's what we wanted to happen.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things is kind of like the leadership quotes that we kind of got in the press game or post game conferences and stuff like that. One of my favorite ones I'll call out is Dak Prescott talked about how defensive players were coming up to him after the game saying, "Hey, like we're sorry we put you in that situation." Taking that accountability for for the offense bailing them out today. But Dak responded with like, "Y'all bailed me out. I remember that pick I threw on our side of
Right.
the field."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you turned it into no points. Well, guess what? Those no points is what probably made the difference in the game, right? Who knows? We'll never know because they never scored anything. But if they did, do we win today? Do we lose by 3? Do we lose by 7? Who knows? So I think the accountability in the locker room's there, and I think it's a big boost morale for as fans to see the accountability always be there. We know Dak Prescott's a leadership guy, and we always know that he's always going to say the right things in front of the cameras. But I truly believe that behind the scenes, they are bought into Brian Schottenheimer, and they're bought into the culture they're building. And again, these are things that we may have not talked about on the podcast, but before we started it, I really brought up the idea of what does Brian Schottenheimer do with his culture, the coaching staff, all of them when you're down 14-0 and it's the second quarter and you have gotten nothing going. And that's kind of how I felt today, right? Like we were just kept being down and down and down. And it's like, how do you bounce back, Brian Schottenheimer? Does your culture that you've been coaching since training camp actually working? Are the players actually bought into where they say, hey, no, we got this? Like, we've got the roster. We are the Dallas Cowboys, and under our head coach's leadership and our quarterback's veteran leadership and our defensive veteran leadership, we know that we can still stay in this game. And I think it was there today. I think there'll be another game down the road where you're down maybe a little bit worse, that 14-0 that I'm talking about, and all of a sudden it becomes, hey guys, let's get together real quick. Okay, let's walk through it. All right, this is how we're going to start. Let's go get this touchdown, and let's worry about the next thing after that. And so I'm really proud of the composure,
Sure.
You can lose your composure quick. And you saw the Giants sideline. They're celebrating and they're getting
Right.
crazy. And I mean, you had the left tackle today. Let's talk about the left tackle today for the Giants. 4 straight penalties.
Yeah,
I
that was
mean,
wild. I've never seen that before. It was a
and
wild game, and there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where if the Giants win, that all those little like mistakes and stuff, they go away. Everyone
Right.
forgets about the 4 penalties in a row and stuff. Maybe not the Giants coaching staff, but like the fans are like, oh, like we can let it slide. We won. We can move past it. Who cares? But I felt that we were better coached and everything like that versus what their sideline looked like. And for what Brian Daboll seemed stressed the whole time, I just feel bad. I feel like it's us from last year with Mike McCarthy looking like he's playing for his life. And
Right.
that's
Yeah,
just
you
how.
kind of got that sense watching them. I mean, if you look at it this way, if you take away the three first moon balls that, just kind of looked like drop back and chuck it up, this is a massacre, right? Those things don't happen. This is a different game, but
Yep.
they happened, and you can't always stop that. Sometimes, a guy is just throwing a ball in a bucket, and even though your defender is literally right there bumping him, right there, there's nothing you can do to stop it. It's just a very good route with a very good pass, and that's what happened. And the only way to stop that is to have somebody who can run right down the middle of that line and get in that quarterback's face.
Yep.
And that did not happen. I think it happened on the Donovan Wilson interception, or at
Yep.
least I think it was enough, for him to change that trajectory just enough for one of our DBs to get back there, for Wilson to get back there and get underneath it, and that's what caused that. But we need more of that. I think that's what Jadavion is going to help bring to the team. Is that experience and leadership and knowing which moments of the game are really, really critical to be disruptive and teach our younger guys some things that will help them down the stretch and make that kind of an impact. But one of the questions you asked me earlier was about Eberflus and what I think of the defense.
Yeah.
It's challenging because last week we played the defending champs, and everything I felt like went to script for both of our coaches. For our offense, well, for Brian Schottenheimer, offensively, play calling went the way he expected, and the script that we had dialed up for the defense went as expected.
Yep.
I think they planned on it being right down to the end of the game, and aside from some drops, it would have turned out the way they probably anticipated it. So that's how it's supposed to look. If things are executed accordingly with the personnel we have on the field, I think the defense can be effective. But like I said earlier, this is just a situation where our defense was a little different and a little raw for this game,
Mm-hmm.
and we went against a team that had a game plan, and that was going to be run scatabo, bang, 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 and then drop back and throw it over the top because you can't get pressure in the center of the offensive line, and that's what happened. So
What?
I think we grow from here 100%. I think getting some practice on with the secondary is going to help a lot. Obviously, we need Bland back on the field, but I haven't lost faith in Eberflus or the defensive scheme at this point.
Yeah, let me. What is it about degenerating the pressure up the middle? Do you believe that it needs to become with more extra blitzers? Because you see a lot of like the front four, and that's
Right.
it. You know, that's.
Yeah.
Are you talking blitzing, or is it need to be better pass rushing from the front four?
So here's my opinion on this. One, it's a combination of things,
Yep.
right? You're if you're just going to rush forward, they need to be very effective of all getting penetration, right? Because you need to either move Russell Wilson off of his spot or you've got to get to him. One of those two things has to happen. But with this particular quarterback, because of his size, he has to throw the ball at a trajectory that goes over the offensive line,
Yep.
right? So the only way to disrupt his ability to do that is to have someone generally in front of him and in his face. Because if you notice, every time that happened, he had a clean pocket. We may have been pressuring towards the outside, but he was able to just launch it. And then when he did have to break and run, when we did get to him around the outside, where did he run? Right up the middle of the field,
Yeah.
right? So that's how you have to stop Russell Wilson specifically. It's going to change depending on the type of quarterback that we play, but
Hmm.
for this one, we knew that. Me and you talked about it. You know, he's good at getting small and getting through the middle of the line and running when he needs to, and he will throw a moonball into a bucket if you give him time. So to stop that in the future, we were watching. I think it was I think it was the Eagles game earlier with the Chiefs, and the
Yes.
Chiefs were doing some stunt blitzes. You know, where they were just adding an extra linebacker coming around the tight end or going under the tight end, just lining one on one, and then sending one extra guy onto the blocker so that he has to make a choice as to who he's going to pick up and just force Russell to have to make a quicker decision because he's not having to make quick decisions. He's just dropping back, counting to three, and then floating it out there and letting his wide receiver run under that. So you have to disrupt that somehow. And the only way to do it is to get someone in his face. So what I would like to see Eberflus do is to just occasionally send a cornerback blitz like he did last week or send a linebacker.
Yeah, and some people will think differently. I mean, I agree 100% with what you said. I just wanted to make sure that that's what you were talking about is kind
Sure.
of a mixture of it and not just saying
Right.
like, you know, Clowney was the way that I feel better about this, right? Because now our front four is better. So
Sure.
I agree with you. I think anytime that you can generate pressures and quick from, your corners, slot corners, linebackers, anything like that, safeties, it can be huge. And I think there could have been a lot of drives that could have been shut down today from a good pressure blitz like it was in Philly. One or two little sacks can change a whole entire drive. Now, again, I think Russell Wilson was going to throw moonballs until he couldn't throw no more. So I don't think it mattered even if you got him in 3rd and 20. We saw that it doesn't matter. Just,
No, he's going to throw it. How well he throws it is what we can change.
yeah. So that's the thing. I think we definitely escaped with one today, and I definitely think that we deserved to win. We need to find
100%.
ways to generate better pressure and find ways to. We just gotta get better on defense. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to break down the film to kind of really understand what kind of went wrong on these long shots and all that, but. I, I'm kind of at a loss. This game was crazy. I just did not expect it, and my heart rate gets up to 120, and you're just kind of like,
There's
you
some
know.
tense moments in there for sure.
I know you and I sit next to each other watching it. It's like you walked out the room when Aubrey was about to kick it
Yeah.
for the tying, or was it the winner? Did you watch the tying one?
No, I watched the tying one. It was the
Yeah.
last
Okay.
one. I was like, I can't take anymore, man. I'm
He,
just
he
riding this roller coaster up and down, and it was great to see. Like we talked about, it was great to see them hang in there and fight, fight, fight. But you just like, come on, guys. Way too many opportunities to put this thing to bed, and They got it done. That's all that matters, and I'm happy. I'm proud of the
Yeah,
team. I'm proud of the way they played. I'm proud that they fought home so hard like that. And they got a win at home. So great, awesome.
yeah. So for everyone last week who took moral victories, you can take an actual victory this
Yeah,
week, and
yeah,
you can take some moral defeats with the defense secondary, figuring out why moonballs were killing us. But outside of that, I mean, I think if we were have to kind of get into like MVPs on each side of the ball, I think my MVP is going to have to go to probably Dak Prescott. I know it's kind of an obvious one. There's some other good options out there, but for Dak to be able to keep the composure today, I've seen him go downhill very quick in games like this, but I saw him really rise to the challenge today and be able to keep on, not, the cadence, getting them to jump off sides. It's little things, right? Being able to get those free shots, being able to hit Fergie, and as soon as Fergie turns around, he catches the ball and falls
it was
down.
there. Yeah,
And now we're at midfield to be able to have a chance to get to OT. I think being able to command the offensive line, even when BB went down, again, we saw this again. This is the third time I've seen it in 2 years. When the ball is fumbled, Dak Prescott seems to be the one making the play, right? He's leading the charge on all full efforts. Last year against Pittsburgh, he recovers the fumble, Rico Dowdle fumbles. Last week we saw the touchdown saving tackle that kept us in the game. Today, bounces off right off Hoffman's butt, trying to get into his hands, and he's the first one on the ground recovering it because that would have been it. We would have lost. We give him the ball on our own 30, or I think we were
yeah,
in the 40, somewhere in there.
yeah,
So
yeah. They put it
credit
in, and it's over.
so credit to Prescott for being able to always lead the charge, show the guys, and go 110%, even if it's a ball under a center, under a defensive lineman. Being able to just sacrifice his body. I mean, he truly is. He's really truly, and I love the overtime celebration when he saw the gap open up in the middle and he used his legs and he's all, so
Yeah,
it was a good time. I know in the post game presser, he was like, "Yeah, I felt good. I told y'all my rehab went well."
yeah. He found his legs, and he took off. I was happy to see that.
So, and
You're
then
right.
on the defensive side, I'll probably give mine to. I wish I could say James Houston. I really would, but he doesn't get enough
Yeah,
snaps for me to be able to
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like you have to have a minimum of 30% of the game, right?
Sure.
So,
Unless
but
you just hit the quarterback, knock the ball loose, and pick it up and run it
yeah,
to the end zone, then if you do that in one play, sure, you can have the MVP for that.
yeah,
It's a tough one on defense. I think I know where you're going. I'm probably going the same place though, so I'll wait it out though.
I'm gonna say people are gonna hate this, but I'm gonna say Donovan Wilson. Um,
Oh,
I'm gonna say Donovan Wilson. I know he
yeah.
didn't have it's like a C plus grade for the day, but
Okay.
I will say that he was able to keep fighting and keep bouncing back like he always does. He does battle through a lot of things, like when Scattaboo came up and ran him over. The next time he made sure he hit him, and then the INT to be able to finally stayed back in coverage and was able to get that INT to set us up for the game winner. I'm gonna give him my MVP. Obviously, I think I know where you're going with yours, so I'll let you at least have yours. So I'll pass
All
the
right.
floor to you.
All right. So I'll match your defensive there with. I'm going to go Kenneth Murray on this. Okay. I think he was one of the ones we touched on in the pregame that we'd like to see a little more from, and I think it was 7 tackles, 5 solo, 2 for a loss. And a couple of those were pretty impactful. Especially when they were down around the line of scrimmage. So I give him that. I think he played well. Donovan Wilson, sure, I'll give a special shout out for his interception there at the end of the game. For the offense, this one is going to be unique. Dak played well,
Hmm.
but Dak typically does. Dak's one of mine and one of your favorite players, and he does his job and he does it very well. But I want to give this one to Brian Schottenheimer with a special mention of Javonte Williams.
Okay.
I think Brian made a statement as to the type of head coach he is and keeping that team calm and fighting the way he did to stick around. And you got to get to a point in those games where you're just like, we'll just take the L, and that's happened to our team before. We've been on the other side of these kind of games many times, and he didn't allow that to happen, and the team didn't allow that to happen to him. And I think part of the reason is Dak is who he is as a leader, and because Javonte Williams played as well as he did today.
Yeah.
He didn't put up huge, big numbers, but he did a great job, and he moved the ball when he needed to move the ball, and he made a play when he needed to make a play. So, we can call that a triple crown or a 3 offensive MVPs, or, Brian Schottenheimer with special mentions to Dak and Williams. But that's where it goes for me today. And I think they did a fantastic job. And as always, proud to be a Dallas Cowboys fan. So with
Always.
that being said, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
We're not a all-team channel. We're a Dallas Cowboys channel. But, just out of curiosity, looking at the New York Giants and what we saw in this game with some of the disciplinary issues and tons of penalties and kind of what we were witnessing on the sidelines, it's tough being a Giants fan right now. But like I said, we've been there as Cowboys fans. But how do you think, where does that team go from there? Because I mean, they've got tools, man. They have tools today, and they were putting them to work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any realistic Giants fan. I don't know how Giants fan base is. I don't think you look at your team ever this year and say like we're Super Bowl caliber, right? So it's all about
Right.
how do you look to the future and how do you develop what you got. Um, I think that it needs to become Jackson Dart's time sooner than later. On when it comes to when they get healthy. I know they're still waiting for their left tackle and stuff. I don't think right now is the right time. I think Jackson Dart may have learned a lot today from Russell Wilson, being able to keep on fighting and bouncing forward and being able to command the huddle during a crazy time. But for Giants fans, I think you need to really look at, is Brian Dayball elevating the team or is he keeping it same, right? Um, it's kind of like Mike McCarthy last year. After you had success, you kind of like stale off. And it's not a bad thing for a coach, but maybe, his tenure comes to an end because he needs a new opportunity. And the Giants deserve a new opportunity to bring in somebody like a Brian Schottenheimer or Ben Johnson or somebody who is hungry. Again, I'm not gonna say Brian Daboll is not hungry. I think every coach is hungry to win and they enjoy it. But you can see there's a lot of frustration and there's a lot of pressure on this coach's back to try to put up wins. And the organization and the ownership and the coaching, you as a owner and GM have to be a little bit realistic with your team, and you have to look at it and say, is Brian Daboll the right fit for my team? One, but two, is he somebody I see in the future still coaching my team? And that's what you got to figure out this year. That's what the answer is. Yes, you may not be playoff, or you may not even, win, go 500, but does Brian Daboll show traits and stuff that you want coaching Jackson Dart, Malik Neighbors in the future? If not, guess what? Jackson Dart's coming off of his rookie year with a new coach, and everything can be wiped clean, and you can start anew, maybe with a new offensive guru, or maybe someone defensive, right? I don't know.
Sure.
I just think for Giants fans, you have to grade everything on a level and look at it from 2 to 3 years from now. I say this because 2 or 3 years ago, or 2023 season, Jerry Jones said, we're going all in. People thought that was this year, right? Right
Right.
after the playoff game, they thought, oh, the Cowboys are going all in this year. Maybe he's BSing, but it's kind of playing out a little bit here. So keep with me. Um, I think he meant all in on Dak Prescott. He gives him the contract. He gets CD a supporting weapon, and now he's trying to build the best team around his quarterback as he can. He gets George Pickens as a second weapon to help him out and help out CD. He
Bingo.
trades Micah Parsons away to open up the cap to be able to bring in guys like Javion Clowney, Kenny Clark, that you got from the trade. 2 first rounders who can help in the next 1 to 2 years, because that's what's kind of about. Dak
Right.
Prescott's on kind of his last big deal. He still may be good after this. No, I hope he is. I'm not really looking to be in the quarterback games anytime soon but you have to capitalize because Dak doesn't have forever.
Sure.
So it's just one of those things where I kind of look at it and I'm like, maybe that's the direction we're heading with this all-in thing. And for the Giants fans, I feel like that it should be the same way. Jackson Dart's your future. Malik Neighbors is your future. How do we rebuild the L line? How do we get our defensive, secondary right? I mean, you got a great D line, but the problem is these guys are going to want their money soon, and it's about timing the key pieces right. You
Sure.
can't just glue a bunch of things together and then just throw it out there. The Eagles have been building that team for years, right? And then they get
Yeah.
on a good run. The Chiefs have been building their team for years, and then they get on a good run. You have
Right.
it's like the Niners. The Niners are in a little bit of a troubled situation because they had the team and had all the momentum, but once Brock Purdy needs a contract, and then once George Kittle needs a contract, and once Brandon Ayuk needs a contract, and once Debo Samuel needs a contract, you don't have the same cap anymore to bring in everybody you want. So for me, and if I was a Giants fan, it's all about how do I get back to playoff success in a year or two. And then if it doesn't look good in a year or two, then hopefully by 3 before Jackson Dart's rookie contract's over, you're really looking for a year or two because then he has 2 years on his rookie deal and you have a really good team around him to be able to have that 1 to 2 year window to push for that success before you have to give him money if he's good and then be able to get the other key pieces their money too. So
Yeah.
that's what
So
I'm talking about with it.
they need to move to Jackson Dart sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously, that's my opinion. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're going to do. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen after falling to 0-2, and it's division 0-2. So that puts them in a pretty steep hole,
Yeah.
and it's going to be interesting. And we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it was interesting to watch. So here's where we're at. We're going to do this twice a week for sure. We'll do a
Yep.
pregame, postgame. But if anybody has anything they'd like to see us do on the channel, feel free to leave us a comment or send us a message and let us know what kind of content you're interested in seeing from us. We'll be happy to do it. We do some film review. We like to do film review. We like to do, we can do specific players or roles as well. So
Mm-hmm.
just let us know if you have anything, and we'll make extra time and extra content to oblige that. But uh, all in all, good day. Always great to win. It was an interesting ending to
Yeah.
some of the games at 3:15. We jumped into the middle of them because our game went so long. But watching Carolina, that was a hectic ending. I was really pulling for them to pull that out there, but didn't happen. And then
Mm-hmm.
that tush push thing. I'm so curious as to how that's going to end up playing out in the league, because I had never noticed it until this game. But there is some offsides going on that play. I went back and looked after the game, and three of the times that they ran it, one or both of the guards are already across the line of scrimmage before the
I think we lost him for a second. So we will wait. I think there's a possibility that maybe his phone died, his mic died. I'm not sure, but like he said, we're here to enjoy the content, and we are very, very, very excited to be here. We do this to be able to talk to Cowboys fans. We're looking to kind of connect with y'all and being able to put us out there on the platform and being able to answer y'all's questions and kind of challenge us. We want to become deeper level fans of some sort. So, we're super excited for y'all to be here. And I think he is going to be disconnected for the rest of this. So I'm going to end it here. And if y'all have anything, leave a comment. Please like, subscribe. And I really hope y'all enjoy the content. And until next time, we built the game plan. Game plan fell apart, but we got the dub. Go Cowboys.